for when we run out.
Oh, hey, what's up? Welcome back to Filmatic. You caught us in the middle of a little debate here. We're trying to figure out what the intro should be, and we have a lot of great ideas. Ben Casey had a good one. Ben?
What do y'all think?
Yeah, yep.
Pretty decent. I mean, lighting up
I
another
disagree. I think that's
lit episode of Film. Am I right, guys? Woo!
See, you saying that just ruined that entire intro.
All right. Well, next person, go.
Darian.
Oh yeah. All right. Get ready, guys. We're gonna be devouring another episode of Filmatic here.
I like that. There was a good level of moistness in the chew.
Oh, I'm still going.
He's not done.
It tastes
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna vomit.
Little ASMR warning
This is
there.
Popeye's ASMR kind of vibes. As you may have heard, you heard Ben Casey, you heard Darian Nigro, you got Connor Park on the track,
Hello.
you got Jeffrey Wiliams turning, and Jenny Talls.
Hello, guys. What's up?
Manuel Ray is here, and we're here. We're ready for another episode of Filmatic. We're going to be talking about There Will Be Blood.
Dun, dun, dun.
Nabil, first question. Will there be blood?
There will be blood.
Oh, good, because I was worried that there would be
Period.
lack of blood in this film. And I was coming into the film hoping for a lot of blood.
Yeah, I mean, when we were watching the movie, the Netflix party chat was just blowing out, every other minute. Everyone's wondering where the blood was going to be in this 2.5-hour movie.
I remember going, there's 23 minutes left, Nabil. Will there be blood?
Yeah, and then
Okay,
Manny's
hold on. I object. I watched the movie today. There was blood before the end.
Oh, there was.
Oh yeah, there was exclusively blood in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
only was blood. There only just was.
They
Only
did not
exclusively
make
was
the
blood.
point. No, but the point was there wasn't a lot of blood. And from the title, you would think that. But
Well,
Why
I have
would you
something
think that? There's
related
no-
to this that I will be bringing up later in the movie, later in the discussion. Yeah.
One funny thing before we start. I just received a picture of a Tinder profile
Oh,
of
God.
I will say the name, it will be bleeped out, I guess. Cade Nelson. And it
I don't
has
think we should bleep that one out. We should leave that
And it
out.
has
I don't- I
crack
think we
lady in
should-
the background. It has the crack lady in it.
Oh my
Absolutely
god.
She's
no
in the
way.
photo.
No way.
I'm sending
No
it to Noah.
fucking way.
no way.
Because
It's
he was at that
insane.
party.
Yes,
Don't
it's a
bleep this
picture
out,
from that
Nabil.
night.
Don't bleep this out. It's too good.
It's a
Please.
picture from
Please
that
do
night.
it.
I'm sure of it.
Do we explain the night now?
Yeah.
So
So
we
we were at this large group thing. I don't know if it was a party, but we were at Libby's house. And do we know whose house it was that was next to hers?
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo
Okay, so Lorenzo's house, they were having a party, and this woman was outside. I was summoned outside because I heard there was a MILF. That's not the case. This woman was just a crackhead, and she was
Confirmed by her crack pipe that she pulled out and smoked.
Yeah, like not just she didn't even look that bad. Like, I'm not trying to make a snap judgment. She just was very open about this fact. And she was accusing the people at Lorenzo's house, I think possibly specifically Cade Nelson, of stealing her
No,
cigarettes.
Ashton Brooks.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess they stole her cigarettes.
The cigarettes were just in her bag. She found them like an hour later.
Yeah, I don't know, she went to the gas station with you guys, right? I know that she hit someone's vape and then talked about how she her boyfriend's a couple hours ago and explicitly said that she so that was awesome. If hitting the crack pipe wasn't enough of a sign that people should not be sharing mouthpieces with her, then
I was in the car with her, dude. She was crazy. I was the one that first met her out of our group of friends. She was coming down, and we had gone outside. Me and a friend of ours went outside, and we ran into Ashton and Lorenzo. And so we were just talking to them because we hadn't seen them in a long time. And Ashton just goes, dude, we're bringing her back to Lorenzo's place. It was strange because they came up to me and just said that. That's the exact words they use.
Yeah, I had multiple people relay that message, not even you, Jeff, to me inside. That
Jerry didn't even come outside and the
because this was
information made it
happening.
back in.
Yeah, like, it was very quick. It was pretty ridiculous. I don't even know if we should censor this, Jamil. I think it's pretty
You know,
jokes.
When I said that the listeners wanted more lighthearted fun, I really wasn't. You guys really went to the next level. Appreciate that. I'm sorry. What? All I heard was bleep bleep, dude. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Anyways,
Dude, what's everyone up to, guys? It's April 25th. I mean, what kind of hijinks?
Days exist anymore?
Yeah.
I had homework due today.
I'm pretty excited for Bill Gates' takeover. I don't know about you guys, but that's pretty hype.
I'm excited for the Bill Cosby takeover.
I'm excited for the new Car Seat Headrest album next Friday.
I heard Kanye West is doing a concert on Crunker.
I heard the
You
same
guys
thing,
gotta show up
actually.
to that. We'll put a link somewhere.
Yeah, apparently it's going to be in Littletown, and it's
No
perfect.
way.
I heard
he's
actually.
on Littletown.
No, I heard they're bringing back Kanji for the concert.
No way.
Wait, is Kanji gone?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
got rid of
Kanji-
Kanji and
Kanji
replaced it with
is
like this
gone.
desert sand Egypt map.
No, what?
The desert map is hype, but
Kanji
it's
was
nowhere
only
near
the
as good as
best
Kanji.
map. Kanji was
You're
only
right.
the best map.
Oh, that's terrible.
Little Crunker plug here. Crunker.io.
Guys, go to
If you want a
Crunker.io for
free-to-play
some
game.
free fun browser game.
The first-person shooter, one of the best first-person shooters I've played, actually, I think.
One of the best ever.
It's one of the only games that can run on my computer, so it's really a good time.
Yeah, tune in next week. We're gonna be doing a Crunker podcast right now.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
That's pretty.
Tune in next
Neville
week
said,
when we discuss Connor's aimbots on Crunker.
Go to
Connor
Strong
for
Gecko
aimbots.
on Crunker Hub to check out the latest aim hacks.
I don't have aim hacks, just worse at the game and salty about it.
By the way,
I just cut that out, so it's okay.
if you're a Mighty Mouse fan,
I just cut that out.
They did it right now.
Mighty Mouse, what?
if anyone's into the classic Golden Age cartoon Mighty Mouse, you can hit me up at MIGTYFAN2.
That's MIGHT.
No H. There's no H.
No age,
Oh
no
fuck.
age.
Oh fuck. I'm sorry. Fuck.
MIGTYFAN2. Wait, Mighty Mouse? Wait, no, MIGTY.
Oh my god.
M. You get the idea.
The spelling podcast. Welcome to Filmatic. We cannot spell.
Filmatic.
All right, guys, we made it to almost the 10-minute mark. I think we really put
How
some
many
light
times
there.
can we say before we hit 10 minutes?
Please.
Come
It takes
on.
so long to edit.
Come on, man.
Dominoes. Everybody, let's go.
All right. Normally we would do some movie news. Not much news though, as I'm sure you guys could.
Ascertain
lot of-
from the situation.
Yeah, a lot of movies just getting pushed. Obviously, notably, I don't know if we talked about this. This is one thing I definitely want to talk about for a little bit. Sam Raimi is directing the next Doctor Strange installment, and that moved from 2021 to March 2022.
Damn.
I know we talk a lot about Marvel movies, and we got some pretty strong views about that. And I know that at least Darian and me have talked about it explicitly, saying that
Darian and I.
Darian and I. Come on.
Okay.
Spelling.
This is a professional program, Nabil. Come on, shape up.
I know that Darian and me have really.
Marley and me.
I know that Marley and me have really
Marley and me?
expressed interest in this one particularly, even though we don't really see much of it. What am I saying? Okay, what do you guys think of Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange 2?
I'm excited. His work with the Spider-Man trilogy was arguably the best in my
course.
personal opinion.
Mhm.
So
The
I
best
believe
we've
that-
seen of what? The best
Of
directing.
Don't say it.
Connor, there's not that massive sample size for Spider-Man.
Okay, well we have
options.
Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi. We've got Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
Sam Hammy.
We've got
Rami.
Tom Holland as the new one. I'm saying I'm putting it out there. Sam Raimi, his Spider-Man, best one.
Yeah, Sam Raimi's is probably, even with the inconsistent third entry, I think that it's still
The quintessential superhero
It
movie.
holds up. It might just be a nostalgia factor, but I don't know. Far From Home lost me movies, and Garfield's was
Yeah.
not.
If you guys want to hear about that, just go back to almost any other episode.
Yeah,
It comes up
basically
every
just a
time.
Spider-Man podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Unrelated note, can we talk about the Spider-Man that should have been but never was? Donald Glover.
Donald Glover Spider-Man would have been the best Spider-Man.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing. I feel like they jumped on that Donald Glover cameo and threw it out that he could ever be Miles Morales. I think he is a little bit too old, though, actually, so I don't know.
Oh,
He is too
he
old.
He's only too old.
But I mean, obviously, that would be hype.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that Tobey Maguire a little bit too old. He has.
How
He
dare
did.
you
younger
ever say
face,
anything
I
negative
guess,
about Tobey
so.
Maguire?
Shaved Donald Glover could.
Shaved.
It could work, maybe.
I mean, Marvel loves their de-aging, right? I'm sure they could figure it out.
Irishman over
Spider-Verse. I heard that Spider-Verse got pushed back.
Yeah, I got pushed back to 2022.
They're
Wait,
making
there's
another
a
Yeah,
series?
yeah.
Oh shit, that's hype.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
says
I'm not surprised. It made a fuck ton of money and everybody
dope
loved
movie.
it.
It was quite
pretty
good.
great.
Guys, Uncharted got moved forward. That's insane.
Make it stop. Make it
That's
stop.
Wait, Uncharted
It's not.
5 now?
No, the movie.
No,
No, it's a
the
movie,
Uncharted
you
movie.
fucking idiot. This
Oh,
is a
that's
film
Connor.
podcast.
Connor, get this, dude. Get this, all right? They're making an Uncharted movie, right? I know
Okay.
you're thinking, oh, okay, that could be good. Who are they getting? Bradley Cooper? You know, who? Guess what? All right, Tom Holland is playing Nathan Drake.
Are
and
you
Mark
kidding?
Mark Wahlberg is playing Sully. I'm not joking.
Oh
No
wait, is this
fucking
like?
way. Are
is
you
this-
serious?
Not
Nabil?
Mark Wahlberg is Sully?
I wish I was joking. I wish this was
No,
a serious-
yeah, I forgot about this, but it's gonna be like earlier on in their thing, right?
No,
So-
that's fucking ridiculous. That is
well,
such
it's
a
supposed to be
horrible
young Nathan Drake, like a
Oh
right?
my god.
like a very young,
Yeah.
right? Like
Did you
we're
mean
talking
writing the
about-
script so that they could get A-list actor Tom Holland to play the part?
Cause,
Yeah.
because it's based on the fourth game, I think, right? So
In
in that game,
the
I think
fourth
it's-
game is oldest. He is the oldest in it. It's not a prequel.
No, it's based on the sequence in the third game. He's a
oh, the
kid.
third game.
Okay, that makes sense.
But even then, I still.
It's apparently a prequel to the games.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Yeah.
like an origin
What?
story for.
That's what we just said.
Yeah, but I said it more accurately.
All
and
right.
better.
Okay.
Ben,
Anyway, yeah,
I know
Darian-
that you wish you could have my sing ability. I'm sorry, I can't just get like that. But I mean, hey,
All right,
props
Connor.
for trying.
Connor, you're the funny guy on this podcast. What can I say? Funny guy. Funny guy over here.
It's also interesting though, because they're both being made by Sony, right? And they're both using Tom Holland. So
Yeah.
intriguing.
Money, 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 money.
Double up. Yeah, Tom Holland is boy.
Yeah, and like you said, it's getting moved forward as in closer, which is interesting.
It's pretty
considering
high
and less far away.
I am so glad.
So is
Because I
Morbius
think-
still coming out, or is that still going
It's
forward?
still set. It's still set for July.
And I also
which-
opened a bag of Doritos today. Wonder Woman was on there. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
Dude, I've been eating those Doritos bags with Gal Gadot's face on them for weeks. I'm so tired of seeing just Wonder Woman every single time I want to eat a snack. I'm
Spider-Man
almost turned
3
away
got
from the
pushed
movies
back.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's
imagine
right.
all the
Yeah,
toilet
not
paper.
anything crazy, but
Yeah, no, every movie basically got pushed back except for Uncharted, which is really weird.
they're all just like a few months though, right? Nothing like huge.
Besides Spider-Verse. Yeah, so that's movie news for you. Good stuff.
You should do a segment maybe in the future where you talk about new releases on Netflix that you should check out, something like that, like new to streaming. That'd be kind of good.
Well, actually, one I just saw that we might do in a few weeks. Django Unchained is back on Netflix.
Back
I
on
just
Netflix.
watched that today by
Bleep that. Bleep that.
Bleep that.
Yeah, so it's back on Netflix today. That's a really good one. Really one of my favorite Tarantinos.
I actually
I
just
think it could be my number one.
Damn.
It's a very good film.
watched it today, Nabil. I'm very glad that I did. It's always such a good film to rewatch.
If I remember correctly, fairly long.
It is.
Oh,
It
it
is
was
pretty
like
long.
167 minutes running time.
You know, I believe there's a version of it released on Netflix back when it used to be on it, because I remember it was a mainstay on Netflix for a while. But I think they did a similar thing to The Hateful Eight, where they did it in like
Episodes.
something like that. So
Yeah,
definitely
A
could be
longer version, an extended version.
yeah.
not extended, but with just like cut up into 3 parts. I think I don't know.
Oh.
The movie is suited well for that.
Yeah, I rewatched Hateful Eight a few months ago, and the episode format was actually really cool. You know, because it's so much better to watch it in chunks, and it works so well. with that movie.
Yeah,
I
really
might need to watch it.
Yeah, and it also includes like extended.
Oh,
It's really
yeah,
good.
because they took a lot of the cinematic pieces that Tarantino wanted to include in the movie out because the movie's runtime by itself was already so long. It was past a 3-hour threshold, right?
Oh yeah.
It was like 3:24, 3 hours 24 minutes or something.
It was 3 minutes long.
Yeah, it was 3 minutes long. It was 3 minutes long.
Wow.
But you get in an extra 30 minutes, and very little of it is actual action. It's just extra pieces to add into the conversations that give it more of a natural flow, and it gives it just more cinematic beauty by taking some of the beautiful shots that Tarantino had to take out. It becomes a much better film if you watch it that way. Highly recommend.
For sure.
Yeah, some other things that I'm sure most people already have watched on Netflix this month. One of my favorite movies, The Green Hornet with Seth Rogen, and The Big Show
That's classic.
Show. It's pretty
Big Show, dude. No, I watched the first episode and oh my god, I feel like I understand like what they do. WWE is like they have to have such a scope of movies and stuff, but there's nothing exceptional about that show except for him, of course.
Yep,
But
they're really
that's
pouring
it.
out Big Show in
That's it.
2020.
Main
It's-
evented WrestleMania. Main evented WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm sure most people already finished that show, but it's a
Yeah.
solid addition to the library, I guess.
You know how many people watch the Big Show show? I'm sure.
Are they still making
everyone.
Marine movies?
Oh God, I hope not.
Dolphin Tail?
Did somebody say Dolphin Tale? The movie where my father was.
Oh.
So there will be
Oh,
blood.
God, this guy, this fucking guy here.
Yeah, just bleep that one out, Nabil.
Yeah. There. No, go ahead. How was your father involved in Dolphin
No,
Tail?
Nabil, stop
My
encouraging.
dad was directly responsible for.
Stop inflating
It's actually really good.
Your
It's
dad
really
did
good.
what to the Dolphins, Connor? That's horrible. Man.
Stop inflating Connor's ego.
Jesus, Connor, I can't believe you would admit that live on the podcast, but I think we're gonna have to move on.
flex, honestly.
My dad.
Oh my
Swim.
god, he does what?
Your dad makes.
He gives dolphins.
He makes them do
Jesus.
what?
Why would somebody want dolphins to be able to? Dude, that's horrible.
Okay, frankly, Connor, short of kicking
what?
you out of this podcast, we're gonna have to move on. I that's really heinous, and
I think Connor should start his own podcast, like a rival podcast.
There's probably
What'd
a
you call
market. I haven't heard a lot of bestiality podcasts, so.
you haven't heard a lot of podcasts before. There will be blood. It's time. It's time.
Wait,
Can
are you
anyone
watching
give
It's Time or There Will Be Blood?
Connor,
Oh, that's In Time. My bad. Never mind. Bad joke.
Shut your mouth
Connor.
and know
Yes,
your
Jeff?
role. All right.
Jeff, are you trying to say that you're not a fan of In Time, the 2011 sci-fi action movie starring Justin Timberlake?
okay,
What
you
the
know I'm
fuck
not
is
saying
that
that.
movie?
Have you not seen that movie? It's so good.
It's a very good movie.
Yeah, great actor, Justin Timberlake.
Fantastic. Anyway,
Oh shit! Actually, I have seen that movie. That movie's insane.
Yeah, isn't it so good?
It's not good. I will not say it's good.
It's a cool concept for sure.
It is a cool concept. It was not a good movie in any way.
I mean,
It
it's
was
rocking a
enjoyable.
37 on Rotten Tomatoes, so stay in your
Oh
lane.
yeah.
it's only good in the sense that you nostalgically remember it being on your television at some point, but having no idea why there was a movie starring Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious. I actually have seen this movie on TV in the
That-
past.
It
I
was in
saw
the
it
free
in
section of
school.
on-demand movies.
It was always
Why?
on Disney Channel when they used to do their movie marathons and stuff. It was
Disney
horrible.
Channel? What?
No way that's correct.
It only is a Disney Channel movie.
No, no.
What What was it on then? What?
What movie are you talking about?
Probably
What
like
the fuck?
it's probably on AMC or something. I don't know.
I'm just
It's
sure.
20th Century Fox.
It was
so it's
definitely
probably
a free
on a
movie
Fox
channel.
FX or
Oh,
something.
Fox.
Wait,
I'm pretty sure it's on FX.
It's on Cinemax.
See, I saw it, and I don't have any paid channels. with
Jeff,
it, so
there's
I think
no
at
way-
some point.
There's no way
It's
you're
on
thinking
FX.
about Minutemen from Disney Channel. Is that what you're thinking about by any chance?
No, but when he said the movie, I was like thinking of Minutemen, but then I was like, no, I know what movie he's talking about. But Minutemen is a very good movie.
If you want to watch In Time, I don't think it's on streaming, but just so you guys know, Friday, May 1st at 5:50 p.m. It's playing on Action Max East.
It's on Hulu. It says.
All right. Well,
I just typed in
Hulu.
in time movie in Google, and the first thing it says is Hulu.
all right.
See,
Well, I typed
Nabil.
in time under.
I typed in time channel to see what channel I watched this on, and I've got 3 results here near the top. When is the next Democratic debate? WrestleMania 36 and the Joker Academy Awards TV channel. I don't know what's happening, but those have to be 3 of the best search results I've ever seen. So
Joker movie awards.
The Joker TV show, the
There's a-
Joker TV channel.
there's a picture of Joaquin Phoenix, Bernie Sanders, and Drew McIntyre, all right next to each other
No way.
in Google Images. Yeah, it's great.
Nabil, can we please just have the in time movie poster?
Maybe it's possible.
Connor, that is the worst idea I've ever heard.
No, yeah, Connor, that's possible.
I think when we say there will be blood, I think it's Nabil going to Connor's house and choking him to death. I feel like that's what this podcast is going to end with.
If
I
I
don't think
choked
we're-
to death, though, there wouldn't be blood.
Okay, fine, battered. Or,
Thank you.
I don't know.
Connor
bludgeoned.
reveals himself to be a false prophet.
You are what?
It was a movie reference. Let's go into it.
I'm in time.
Okay. There will be blood. It's time. There will be blood. Okay, guys. Can we get a little summary? Can we get a little quickie?
Can I go summary again, Nabil?
Yeah.
All right. I'll hit the summary position unless anyone wants it. So basically, the movie follows, what is it, starting at the end of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s, following oil, mining, fracking, drilling, people drilling for oil, and follows this guy who is making a fuck ton of money off of doing this, and follows his endeavors in this business. Him and his son, who's not actually his son, but functionally is.
Okay, that was an unnecessary spoiler. Can we
I
talk
thought we were going full
It's
spoiler.
the first,
No,
yeah, and it's also the first 10 minutes of the movie where he gets the kid, right? So
Yeah.
Oh,
Probably
that's
in the
right.
trailer.
Never mind.
yeah, no, I was a little confused about that, but like you see, is basically, one of the people he was working with while drilling or mining or whatever you'd like to call it, dies in an accident, and he ends up taking his son.
Yeah.
But he's essentially
didn't
trying
put that
to.
together at first. I didn't get that at first. I was just thinking that like the other guy was holding the kid.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
But he's basically, I don't know if you'd say monopolizing, but he's trying to take control of this entire industry and make as much money as he can, trying to be the only one that can succeed. And you just kind of see his character. I don't even know if it's a devolution, kind of, but he was already pretty messed up. I guess we can get into
Yeah,
specific
like-
events that happen as we go into the discussion here. But
Yeah, I think it's just. I feel like it's more you're learning about the character. less than-
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the setting for everything, and pretty much what's happening the entire movie, I'd say.
It's a
Yeah.
pretty good summary right there, Darian. Thank you for that one. Let's give a little round of applause for Darian here. All right, that's enough. He doesn't do
I could have just done a sound effect, but all right.
No need. We'll save you the editing.
Yeah, you guys are gonna do all your own sound effects from now on.
All right.
Okay,
We should
that
have
was a good summary. There's a lot of things to talk about.
Could go chronologically since we're
Yeah,
talking
let's
about
go
characters' development. So
Yeah, let's go chronologically, and we can obviously if we get cut off on something, just go whatever direction. But
Okay.
the intro, the first 20 minutes or so, to me, it felt very Kubrick, 2001: Space Odyssey. There was no dialogue. It was pure soundtrack and image, and it was beautiful. It was incredible in every sense of the word, and it just felt like perfect storytelling. You're seeing him mine the oil reserve, plant the explosive. You see how he injures his leg, and then you see his resolve as he literally crawls back.
Actually, Nabil, that mine, it's not oil. When he's doing the mining part, that's for silver.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
at
That's
the
true.
beginning, he is mining ore.
Yeah, that's correct.
And
Sorry,
that's
my
how he
bad.
gets money. He gets money to front his oil business.
Okay, yeah. And you see that part, and then you obviously see afterwards then that's the oil neck with the other workers, the father of HW, his death. And it just felt very, at times, especially during the silver part, it felt very ethereal to me. Very much reminded me of Uncut Gems in that sense of that movie.
Yeah, and one thing that I really liked about that opening scene, like besides the lack of dialogue, was like the whole soundtrack was just like orchestral music. Like it wasn't like, you know, band stuff, it was just an orchestra playing. And I felt like that was just did so well to like add kind of the suspense and like the intensity of those first scenes, and also like the colors and the lighting of the scenes, like being like very dark and in the mines is, you know, accurate because they're in mines, but it also just adds more to like the dark, like not exactly sinister, but kind of suspense beginning that I felt.
Yeah,
important
and
to go for.
also in that lack of dialogue, not only the soundtrack but also just the sounds of him just banging away, I think are pretty impactful since nobody's talking. You know, just all
Impactful.
these working noises.
Yeah.
Atmospheric.
Yes, this movie is very immersive in terms of atmosphere. It really feels like you're in the setting fully.
Darian, did you say
I
him banging
believe
away with the
the
hammer
score-
was impactful?
Yeah, the noises are just very loud, and
Yeah,
with the lack of
the banging is impact.
Connor, I'm
Metaphorically
removing
speaking,
you
yeah.
from this. I'm removing you from this podcast. I would ask you to leave, please, because I'm just tired of you. You are not funny. Just stop.
This isn't even just funny bullying. This just seems actually mean.
Well, the viewers might not know this, but me and Connor are friends and have been friends for almost our entire lives. And I have this joke that I do with him where I bully him. We both know that it's all in good fun, but sometimes it gets a little mean. And
Yeah, hilarious joke, Jeff. I really love this bit that we do.
This is the same thing as the me and Ben joke.
Oh,
Like 2 episodes ago, I said the exact same thing.
All right.
I said the exact same thing to Ben, and Ben's like, "Oh yeah, totally a bit, right?" It's kind of weird.
Jeff, I think they're taking our bit.
Well,
Well, I
this has
think they're
only
taking
been
our
going
bit.
on for so long. Ben, this has been going on before you even knew who Nabil was.
Damn.
All right?
Jeff and
We're
Jeff
we're
used
reaching
to
our
bully
7th
me
year,
in
right, Jeff?
Yeah, at least. Probably longer than that.
All right. Anyway, the score of There Will Be Blood is actually something I like to do a little research after the film, especially when it's a movie that I like really get into and just can't stop thinking about. One of the things that I took away most was I just thought the orchestral score was incredible. It was something we were talking about constantly as the film was going on, and it's actually the score is by the Radiohead guitarist Johnny Greenwood, and I thought that was such an interesting choice to pick an already established and kind of out there musician rather than just going with a traditional musician.
I feel like it went well for them too, because like it honestly like did not sound like like a Radiohead style of music. Like it was very like unique to the movie and different
Oh,
from
absolutely,
the normal
and
band stuff.
I think that's what's good about it, and it shows his depth as a musician and the direction that the director Paul Thomas Anderson was going in was one of kind of out there, unlike anything else.
Yeah, it was very incredible and as the movie goes on, it really swells up in a very, like I was saying before, Uncut Gems really reminded in terms of the vibe.
Mhm.
But it just really sets the tone for the film. Like that movie was the at the beginning, the whole, I wouldn't call it a montage, but that whole him dragging himself out of the hole back to get his paperwork done with that, like, it's very like tingly music. It's very scary, and you realize this is going to be the whole film. And it's like versus Uncut Gems was, that whole beginning section was just it was like with the synth, you could tell this was going to be very heavy on you, I think.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, good analysis.
Yeah, and actually having watched it separately from you guys, watching with Nabil, that was also the first thing I brought up was just it's almost like this, like somewhere near the beginning, this heavy anxiety-inducing music coming when he's driving the car up to the train station and they're going out to the first property that he buys.
Yeah, and the pacing of the film is very, it reminded me a lot of, I don't know how many of you have seen Citizen Kane, or even, I guess, The Godfather in some ways, but in the way that...
I can totally see that connection.
Yeah, all those 3 films I just mentioned, including this one, all of them being character studies. It's interesting how similar yet different they are, and the pace is what really made me first realize that.
The character, what's his first name?
Daniel.
Daniel Plainview. Definitely, his character was probably in the top 10 greediest characters. No, would you say so? He definitely fits that archetype of like he has like a driven sense to do one thing, and of course with Daniel Day-Lewis, he is a character actor, so it's something that holds up. That I think in the 2000s, that's a character you're not going to forget. So when you're comparing it to Citizen Kane, to Marlon Brando and Godfather, those are characters. So
I would say even more so. I can see strong connections between Michael in The Godfather Part 2 and
that's true.
Daniel Plainview in this film. Both, men who are put in these positions where they have seemingly all the power in the world, but they learn that it's never enough. They can have all of this power, and it's still not enough for them. It's not satisfying to control everything, and as a result, kind of everything in their life goes into disarray because they don't know how to handle it.
I think the only difference though is that with Daniel Plainview, we're only getting that one snippet of 10 years versus with the Corleones, you're getting the whole 50 years. So you see the development through the 3 movies. But that's just because that movie that's a trilogy that you're able to expand on Michael. You can see a different Michael in the first, second, and what you're saying in the third one. I would say the third one is where you see that disarray. So it's versus what they did with one movie and one character versus a whole family in 3 movies. They were able to fit it into one guy and into 2 hours, 40 minutes? So it's pretty impressive.
That's true.
Yeah. I think those are some pretty good comparisons. I was also thinking, a little bit about Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad. The latter part where he is just constantly needs more and more. There are some differences because I think Daniel's character is a little bit more leaning towards sociopathic. There's less justification for what he's doing than you might be able to make the case for with Walter White, but I think it's the same general theme, just lusting after power and money and control.
Yeah, I think it's hubris that really connects Walter White and Daniel Plainview, and hubris is a very timeless theme. It's in the Odyssey, Julius Caesar. And it's really just the excessive pride that brings the downfall. That's the 2 for me.
What makes it hard, I think, for people maybe to sympathize with Daniel is that we don't see versus Walter White. We see a lot of the family issues and we see a lot more about his background. With Daniel, you're giving very little. So what you are given, the fake brother, the whole thing with that, and then his son. That's all you can have to sort of connect the dots to see a more human side to him. And that's why I think, like I said. He's probably the most. Okay, granted, yeah, Walter White was an a-hole, but Plainview was also, I think, another level of bad.
Also, we saw Daniel Plainview going from how long does the movie stretch? Probably over 30 years of his.
Yeah,
it's 29. Yeah, total.
29 total of his.
It's from 1898 to 1927.
And we get to see that in 2 hours and 40 minutes versus Walter White. We get to see, 5 seasons, each with 40-minute episodes. Call it 10 a season at least, and you get to see just 4 years of his. So it's much different. That's why it's easier to make Daniel Plainview into the villain because you get less time to identify with.
And I do think also the point of the 2 is different. While this definitely is a movie that focuses on Daniel's character specifically, I think that when we get, we can just go into it now, I guess, if we want, but the themes of the movie are just highlighted through this character, and I think it's less about watching, a character change so much so as just, he doesn't change significantly. We do see, some emotion out of him, with when he cries about his brother and stuff. But I think it's supposed to be more representative of something, the point that the movie's trying to make, He kind of embodies greed and that, the American spirit from the time of just get whatever you can at all costs. And, just, it's very, he embodies the spirit of capitalism, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also a reason why they didn't want to offer as many redeeming qualities for him, because it makes the point more significantly made. It hits harder.
To
Yes, I
me,
mean,
or you can go ahead, sorry.
he, as you said, he embodies greed and a bunch of other things, but also I think the biggest thing to me was that what it's showing is that this is the exact type of person who thrives in a capitalist structure, because it's created this environment in which to be successful you have to be heartless. Like there are several studies done about how successful sociopaths and psychopaths are in the business world. I think Daniel is a perfect example of that. He's a high functioning narcissist, possibly sociopath. I mean, he goes on a speech to his fake brother about how he doesn't have feelings for other people. I think that's very clear. And the message being made is that these are the kind of people this system was created to, for and to push forward. Because if you have things such as empathy, it's harder to function in this kind of system.
But I don't think it's not just him. I think another main theme of this whole movie is hypocrisy, because also I don't know his name, Eli Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
The same thing. I would say it's the same thing. He's trying to work those people at the church. He's trying to get all this money. You see how he kind of controls his father,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you can say the same thing about he's being hypocritical about caring, and you could say the same. Well, you could say to agree the same thing for for Daniel. The whole situation with his son when he just gives him away for like a month. But there was one small point of redemption. And I think this is probably one of my favorite scenes. Was I did not abandon my child. That whole part right there. You can tell at first he's just trying to play along. But I think in that last exclaim, you can kind of tell that it got to him for real. But
I
after
don't
that,
know.
I don't know. I think
he
so.
I think he really only did that to get what he wanted. He only did that to get the pipeline built, and then it's shown
Mhm.
even further when he gets his child back and he comes back to him in the car. They have this very long shot, super far away from it, because I don't think it's supposed to be a emotional moment when they're reconnected.
No, that's
Um,
true. That's
it's
true.
very, it's very on the
Dissonant.
surface, and
Yeah.
you're watching from far away because that really was just for appearances. He was publicly humiliated essentially by having to admit, I've abandoned my child. But he didn't actually mean that. He was just doing that for show.
Hmm.
I
I
think.
do think in the final exclaim it did
Yeah.
get to him, but I don't think that changed why he took
No,
his
no.
child back. I think it hurt him, but he's the type of person that at the end of the day, that pain that he's experiencing is put below his desire to succeed and accumulate more and more power and wealth.
I think it hits him in his hypocrisy of family. When he's going to the town, he's like, "Oh, me and my son, we're gonna come in. Me and my son, this and that." But in that moment, I think there was definitely something. But I'm sure as soon after that, I went back to his original mind state. So
Yeah, it didn't change him.
Yeah.
It didn't have a large effect on him, but I think the final exclaim specifically was supposed to show this kind of just highlighting the emotional torture that he is actually experiencing, but the fact that ultimately his son, or well, HW, his son, technically speaking, is what he has always been to Daniel, and that's just kind of a tool to get ahead and
I
make
think
himself look better.
I think the reason why he was so hurt in that scene was because it wasn't that it actually hurt him, the fact that he abandoned his son. It was the fact that it hurt his ego in the sense that now people are all listening to him having to exclaim the fact that he abandoned his child and think less of him, and him knowing that and being such a narcissistic person and such a power hungry person that he wants everyone to think positively of him. That's what really got to him, is that the masses would turn on him because he's not a good person. He's abandoned his child and all. He was probably fearful of that and ashamed to have to exclaim and tell everyone
I could see that. I think it could be I think it could be a combination of different things there. I think all of the points can kind of come together and sum up that relationship they have there. I think the ending scene, not the exact final scene, but the last scene between HW and Daniel is one of my favorite scenes in the film because it really just all comes out there. I mean, Daniel has nothing else to kind of lose. So once he hears that his son will be a quote unquote competitor, he kind of just lets loose and lets him know how he really feels. And I think that actually is an interesting part where HW kind of does not give him the reaction he probably wanted. And, obviously he's deaf, but even as, he's out of the room, walking out of the house, he's still screaming, bastard from a basket to him. And I think that's an interesting breaking point that sets up the final scene, which I don't know if we want to talk about yet, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we're gonna get there because that's a whole nother that kind of goes into the main themes and central workings of the movie. But I mean, just to finish like this Daniel discussion, it feels like okay. So Daniel hates people a lot, right? He said that he wants to get away from everybody. Daniel keeps proving that from his own perspective to me that no one is worth liking. Everyone wants to either deceive him or make him do things that he doesn't want to do. He finds his brother, and it's one of the few times where he breaks from his hard exterior, but he's deceived, and it multiplies his hate. It feels like from that point on, and
he was so easy to trust the imposters, probably because he was looking for an itch of security, thinking that if this is my blood, maybe he'll be truthful to me. This is someone I can like, but of course he's completely proven wrong with that, and it just sets him back to his old ways. So I don't know. I like that whole. I didn't get it at first. That whole part where he's like drinking peach. What was it? Peach something when they were at the beach. What did he say that like triggered it?
Something. Have a drink at the peach tree. He was referencing places in his hometown that his real brother would have known, and his fake brother was like, yeah, totally. And that's how he kind of found out his line.
I think that scene between, like, the scene where he was, like, starting to realize, and, like, the audience was starting to realize that it was a fake brother, I think that was probably my personal favorite scene, just because it, like, set up so much of the climax. Like, just kind of revealing some of the characters and, like, revealing some intention. I'm not trying not to spoil the ending.
Bill, I don't know if this is...
But
we can fit this somewhere,
yeah,
but
that scene I thought was good.
From my research of the 2007 films, it draws a lot of comparisons to No Country for Old Men. Is that something that can be talked about, or...?
Yeah, I mean, the two movies are very similar in the sense that they're slow burn thriller character studies for sure. I don't know how many people here have seen that. How many?
I've only never read it, but I know the gist of it, and they're both very they have a lot of dread in them, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely. But the difference between them is that you have the dread that you get in No Country for Old Men is because you are constantly in this chase. Because for those that don't know the concept of the story behind it, it's a man has run off with money that he has found, like what was it, like $1.5 million or something that he had found, and he was running away from someone who was tracking him down. And you were dealing with that dread over the character the whole time of not knowing where his potential killer is, because the guy was hunting him down to kill him. So that dread that you felt throughout that was actually prompted by something, versus this dread you felt because of the character and just the general, all the different cinematic pieces that they used, all the tools they used with specific shots to angle him down and make him look lesser to the audience by using music that invokes sort of fear. So it's almost as if you're seeing this man devolve before you, and you have to dread what he's going to do. So it's a different type of dread, and still dread that you tangibly.
Yes.
You get to the final.
Well, I want to backtrack still, just to the thing that Manny was talking about with the theme of hypocrisy and Eli's character.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we go to I think before we can talk about that final interaction between them, we should kind of talk about him on his own and some of the interactions from his side, right? So I think one of the first things that struck me was the scene where, they're going to set up the first drill on the Sunday's property after they buy it. And Eli's asking him if he could do a blessing, and he says it, and it's so clear, I think, because he repeats the line 3 times. If you could just say my name first, if you could just say my name, he wants him to give him credit for that blessing. It's not even about the blessing; it's about him, and it's kind of it's exactly what you were talking about, and it's the same thing with the character with Daniel's character, and how he doesn't do it because he doesn't want to give that to Eli. He wants it to make him look better. So instead, he's like, "Oh, it's this young girl's land," and he hugs her in front of everybody, and that makes him look better, and it doesn't let Eli get any type of power or recognition over him, right? So I think that was a really interesting scene, and also obviously the scene where he just brutally attacks Eli in the field and just rubs him in the oil. I think that was a really intense, emotional scene. Because regardless of what you think for the characters, just the manner in which he's slapping him, he's dragging him by the hair. I think that amount of violence was really powerful. And yeah, I think it's just like a direct way that they explicated that type of having power over another person. That is the most direct way to show it.
Yeah, and one thing, kind of separately, but going off of the Eli character, one thing I really liked about the progression of him is when he was first in, and within the first couple scenes that he's in, he seems you can definitely sense some of his power hungriness and the way that he talks over the father and gets is asking a lot of questions and is getting kind of aggressive with Daniel Plainview and their first scene in the in the dining room together of the Sunday's house, and then leading through that he's seems kind of timid and in the background, but still wanting that power. And I don't think his character's really brought out into the light until the first scene in the church where he is healing the woman's arthritis, the older woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very obvious through the framing of the scene that it's not something that's actually happening. It's just a show he's putting on.
Yeah,
But, the amount of power you see him holding there, and just the confidence he's putting out definitely brings out his character, and not necessarily who he is all the time, but who he wishes he.
Yeah, and with that scene, I think I might be mistaken here, but at least the way I took it, the way they filmed that scene and the way that you see Daniel talking to the people he's trying to sell his ideas to prior in the film, it really feels like they're trying to draw this parallel, and at that point reveal, oh, this guy is actually the same as Daniel. He's trying to sell his parishioners the fact that he's a very religious, powerful man in that sense, and Daniel's trying to sell to these people that he's the best oil man that they can get. And you also have in that scene Daniel is looking on at Eli giving his sermon and healing the woman of arthritis, and he's kind of looking, just the expression he gives alone, it just kind of is this recognition. He realizes that Eli is cut from the same cloth as him in that sense. I think really good acting by Daniel Day-Lewis there. I feel like it was just so well portrayed. And also just something that's really interesting is with Eli's character and with Daniel Day-Lewis's character is the the religious aspect. And I think there's just a few things I wanted to bring up from the movie here, reading some other analyses and just some of the things I noticed. There's the scene that we were just talking about where Eli is healing the woman. He's talking about expelling the evil, right? And the camera follows him out, he is pushing this evil force out of the church, and the camera is also being pushed, kind of you're from the perspective of that. You go from the woman's hands, and then he's pushing it down the aisle and out the door, and then the camera just comes back in to Daniel's face, and he's just standing right there in the church. Which I think is an interesting, little point out that Daniel is kind of that evil that is trying to be driven out, right? To some degree, you could make that connection. Also, just things that are done with the oil that I saw some really cool analyses of was, right, early on when HW is still a child, his dad takes the oil and rubs it on his head, which is, a secular the thing that there is done, and I'm not
Ash
sure which
Wednesday by the
religion.
Catholic
Yeah,
Church,
yeah.
right?
And I've had that done to me. They, put the oil or the ashes on your forehead
Does that mean,
just like that
is
with
it
the
relating
thumb
how
in the
to
exact
them,
same way,
the
which is
oil's
really
their
interesting.
ritual and their religion themselves?
Yeah, it's kind of like this like salvation, right? They view it as like this
Yeah.
thing that will bring them
Prosperity.
wealth, yeah, and prosperity, literally speaking, right? And also there's some, the scene where Eli is just like, he's rubbing him in the oil. Daniel is rubbing Eli in the oil in that violent attack scene that I mentioned. It's almost like, once again, the oil is being used in a sense where it kind of like baptizes them, not literally speaking, but also just, I mentioned this at the beginning. I think the oil is also kind of, in a way, representative of blood because it constantly is responsible for so many deaths and, the injury to HW. And a lot of the times you'll see the blood just with the oil, right? When the guy dies in the accident, you see a little bit of blood, but it's mostly the oil, but the blood is still there. And that happens again in the second accident and also during the fight. So I think that's pretty interesting.
And
With
Darian,
the
to
oil.
go off of what you said about like the oil baptism, I don't know if this is what it was going for exactly, but I think you can definitely make some analysis there about like Daniel having like kind of exerting a power over Eli and forcing that baptism, which could be a commentary on like the Catholic Church and like how not necessarily baptism itself, but like being a part of the church and like doing the things that the Bible says becomes more than like recommended. It becomes kind of a thing.
In general.
Yeah, and I don't even think
And,
it necessarily has to be limited to the church. It's just kind of that mindset that I guess during that time period you could say America, or it's a kind of like a capitalist thing where like it's just all about power and forcing people into a position below you so that you can be above them, right?
that power dynamic, like to bring it into the final scene a little bit, if that is okay.
There's one more thing we haven't actually mentioned yet, surprisingly. The scene after Eli is attacked, where he attacks his father, right? He goes back to the house. He's still covered in the mud and the grime from when he was drugged through the field by Daniel, and he has this just violent verbal attack and physical assault on his father, talking about how God doesn't give salvation to stupid people, and it's his fault that this is happening. But what I found extremely interesting about that scene was I felt it to be very similar to the scene in Breaking Bad, where it's like Eli was just kind of emasculated. He had someone take all of the control and power away from him, right? And then he goes home, so he has to take the power away from his father to feel better about himself. Like the scene early on in Breaking Bad where Walter, I forget exactly what happens, but basically he doesn't have control over his situation. He feels powerless. He goes home and he essentially sexually assaults his wife, not related to anything other than he just wants to feel like he's in control again. He wants to just do something against somebody else's will because that was just done to him, right? And I think that's kind of like the big reveal turning point for Eli, because early on you could see him as a good guy next to Daniel Day-Lewis. He might be seen as more of a positive character, but in that scene you just kind of realize this is why he's doing these things. It's clearly not about God. It's clearly not about helping his family get money off of the oil. It's about him, right? And feeling like he's the better person or the in control of this family and what he's doing.
Yeah, How I Met Your Mother actually has an episode kind of on that same topic. They call it the cycle of screaming, where it's like I think Marshall's boss yells at him at work, so then he comes home and he's like angry with Lily, and then she gets mad at the kids at school, and then they're mad at their parents, and it's like just talks about how like just people like it's just kind of a constant cycle of just people want to be, so they were constantly oppress whoever they are able.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily like aggressively towards the other person, just like as a kind of self-saving.
Yeah, and it's kind of related to what Ben was saying with the capitalism, because it's like, or whatever you want to call it, the system in which these people arise from, they're obviously going to have parts of that system's basic principles within them and within their actions, right? So coming out of the system where you have to constantly be working and doing whatever you can to get ahead of your competitor, that is going to carry over into other aspects of your personality and your life. And it kind of is like this, I don't know if pervasive is the correct word, but it just kind of permeates from the base of it into all of the parts that sprout from it, right? So
I think in time.
Is it time?
I think it might be time.
All right. Okay. So to start it out, like to go along with that same like wanting control theme, like I thought this between Eli and Daniel in the bowling alley, like towards the beginning, was already really powerful, which is like their conversation kind of building, and then Daniel was pressuring Eli to admit that he was a false prophet. And like that wasn't for anything. He like Daniel didn't want other people to know that. He didn't even care if other people knew that. Like really, that wasn't the purpose of the scene. It kind of more seemed like Daniel just wanted to both express to Eli that he had that power over, and also just force Eli to like submit himself to Daniel by admitting that.
yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because it's kind of what we were just talking about, where first you see him lose power over his son, and then he has to take the power back from somebody else. And like you said, there's not even an audience. It's just for him. He just wants to know that he can do that. And it's multiple scenes throughout the movie just remind me of that aspect of Breaking Bad. You know, the scene where he's like, "Say my name." He just wants to know that he can get the person to say whatever he wants because he has so much power.
It almost seems like
he's almost like,
what is it, like
relative to
20,
them,
15
like
years after
legendary figure.
the last events? It's like he's been blue-balled for that long, and now he can finally express it face to face to one of his old codgers or whatever, and so that's why there's that whole cathartic ending. I think it's a good ending. It's a really good ending. That's how you should wrap something up like that. Something so tight between like two characters and a foil to Daniel. It's like, I think it's the best way.
Yeah, and it's also really interesting just to evolve Eli's character to the final point that he reaches of, throughout the movie he mentions, first he was told by Daniel that he's going to get the, $5,000 for the church, right? And then later on he mentions that he still hasn't received it, but, like when he brings Daniel to the church and makes him say that he abandoned his child, he mentions in the sermon directly after, "This man is now a part of our community and he offered us $5,000, which we still haven't gotten." So he eventually gets that, but then by the end of it, he clearly didn't do what he wanted with it because he comes back to Daniel asking for more, and he ended up taking what he was given just to build up his own name and ego further until he needed more, right?
Drainage.
Drainage.
Yeah,
What do you
That whole. Sorry, Nabil, you go.
I was just gonna set it up. Just what do you think of that altercation where he's leading him to believe that this bandy tract that Eli is begging for Daniel to buy and come cultivate is already within his control? What do you think about him leading Eli on for that?
Well,
I think that's
that's the whole beauty of the interaction that they were just discussing about Eli and about forcing Eli to admit he's a false prophet, is because that he brought up the bandy tract, specifically that's the whole reason why he has that total power over him, because Eli knows that he needs Daniel's help in order to get out of the financial troubles he's in. He needs him to purchase the bandy tract, and just the fact that Eli, that's what makes the interaction so beautiful between them, is that he forces him to basically strip himself, his entire soul, bare naked, and just admit to all his faults, just to find out it was all for naught when the milkshake monologue comes on.
Yeah, and then he's ensured that Eli has truly humiliated himself, and then, like you said, destroys his soul with taunting him to milkshakes, drainage, also taunting him in the sense that he says that his brother Paul has become a commercial success, which might be a lie. And then once he's fully degraded Eli, he completes his lifetime goal to one-up him by murdering him. And then he says that he's finished.
Where it really ties into the whole capitalism theme, Ben, you obviously love to discuss being an anti-capitalist. It's just a commentary on the idea of capitalism, like eliminating your competitors. And in the end, Daniel has won. He's eliminated the entire competition, but you still look at him and you almost just feel bad for him, even though he has come out victorious in his quest. And
Yeah.
It's just truly just, a real thinker of an ending there.
Yeah, and I think something really interesting to think about given the ending is kind of like the context in which Eli comes to him, right? If you kind of look at it and analyze the dynamic between the two, you can kind of see like this chess game that they're playing with each other sort of throughout the movie. really highlighted by the ending is like Eli comes to him asking for this not only because he needs him, but he also knows that Daniel might actually take this ability to, have some power over him by saving him, right? If Daniel is the one that saves him, then he might have some control over Eli in the future. And I think he recognizes that because they're both the same, right? It's the same instance when he goes to the church to, have he brings Daniel to the church to have him publicly humiliated. Daniel only does that because he's like, if I go there, then this is the only person that can maybe save my public image or get me the pipeline, right? That's what it was initially. This is what I'm going to need to get the land for the pipeline. So I'll go play his game, and I know that he will take that opportunity to be above me. But it's kind of like this back and forth, and I think it's interesting because it's just watching the pull and push of both of them, and this back and forth of trying to be on top of each other, and then it all eventually just ends in Daniel killing Eli, and then it's like Jeff said, it's his victory. But I don't know, it's very interesting, and I think it's very well done. Obviously writing and also just the acting, I feel like you can really sometimes just the expressions of both of them really expand upon what's going on. You can really get a lot of like almost not just emotion, but like you can see them thinking, right, when they're looking at each other in scenes. And I don't know, I think it's very, very cool to watch and very well done.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the title in relation to the film?
It was accurate.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was accurate.
Wait, Connor, was there blood? I don't remember.
There was, in fact, blood.
Definitely
more oil, but there was blood.
No one's gonna come to see There Will Be Oil. There Will Be Blood has more of a ring to it.
Yeah, and I think as a title and function, it's like you go into the movie, right? Not really, if you don't really know what it's about, you kind of start to get an idea for what's happening, the things that they're doing, involving the oil and what Ben's talking about, making progress. And that title just marks this inevitability as you're watching that there will be blood, right? There will be, and it doesn't have to mean literally blood or death or violence, but there will be consequences, like Ben was saying. And it just kind of, it's really interesting to think about because it goes for anything, right? In this system or in these sets of circumstances, there will always be some kind of suffering to some party involved if you want to get that far ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, somebody made the joke about, like, saying, like, there will be oil as the title, but I think, like, the reason that it's not, and, like, just a comparison is, like, throughout the movie, oil is given so much value by both Daniel, who wants to drill for it and sell it for the money, by the towns, because they want it to be drilled to create the, the jobs and get all that prosperity, and the oil has so much value in it, whereas blood throughout the movie is seen as not having any value.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel, the son, like, it wasn't even a blood-related son, which I think was done on purpose. But the reason that he had the son was because his friend had died and had shed blood. So, kind of through that created the bond with the son. And then later on, he threw even that away, showing that, like, the blood shed by his friend and him taking care of that is just meaningless.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
He there is also the scene where he's like, "My blood is in you," right, or whatever. He says that to Henry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think if you want to link the idea of the title back to what you guys were talking about with not only the ending scene but with like capitalism, he shouts at one point during that ending scene. He said, "I am the third revelation."
yeah,
He sees himself as like God speaking through him now, and that idea of God, and also the title of the film in that biblical text also connects to this, because I feel like in the context of the movie, it feels like PTA is kind of viewing God as like a transactional exchange with capitalism. And I'll expand on that. The capitalism that used to belong to the religious movement, before 1897 or whatever it was, even though they don't offer what they're selling, much like Eli at the end of the movie, Eli believes that he has oil to sell, but the oil now belongs to Daniel. And Daniel does have something real to sell, and his oil is going to fuel the 20th century and what comes next in modern history. So he really controls the blood of the land. And now, far more than Eli, represents what Americans will worship, wealth, power, not religious healing. So it seems like the movie is about a lot of things, but primarily, if you want to look at it from that perspective we were talking about before, it's about a a country and society and transit to where we are.
I think something else that, not being directly related, if it's okay that I bring it up now, is like the reoccurring use of alcohol by Daniel, right? Might have fit in a bit better earlier, but we're talking about his emotion, right? We're mentioning that it seems like he definitely, I mean, he explicates that he doesn't really care about other people, and he seems to just worry more about himself. He's able to give his son away because it's slowing him down, and he's found a better guy that he can bring to pitches, right? He thinks he found his brother. That's his new family tie-in for his sales meetings or whatever. But it's really interesting because I think the presence of him drinking, and there's multiple scenes where he wakes up like passed out clearly from drinking, or I mean, from the first scene, the baby's crying and he puts alcohol into the bottle and feeds it to HW as a baby. And he does that again when HW asked by Henry if they could go outside and talk about something, because it wouldn't be appropriate for a child. And then what does he do? He just gives him alcohol and puts him to sleep. And he does the same thing after he kills Henry and cries about his brother. He just drinks himself to sleep. And I don't know if you directly see it, but is he not intoxicated in the last scene? Do we know? It seems like
he thinks
okay.
he is.
So it is definite.
Like an entire handle of.
Oh yeah. He does. Okay, yeah. He's just chugging the handle, and I think that is kind of a thing that might just directly be trying to show that he is suppressing his emotions because there are consequences to all the things he's doing. And it might not be as simple as he's just straight up a sociopath and doesn't care. He clearly does care. He wouldn't have cried about his brother if he didn't, right? But I think he just tries to ignore those things using alcohol. And it's actually really interesting because, right, that's a cultural, like, cornerstone. People, right, use alcohol, especially at this time, to escape the horrible nature of what is going on in their lives, right? I mean, we're in the 20s at that point. I think it's really interesting, actually, and I definitely think that it's trying to be explicitly shown that every time alcohol is used, it's just to turn off these negative emotions that one character or the other is experiencing.
To change the topic a little bit, but to go back to what we were talking about with the title, doing some light research, it seems like the title either is directly or it just happened a reference to Exodus 7:19 in the Bible. Story that's pretty short. So the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters, over the rivers, canals, ponds, and all their water reservoirs, and they will become blood. There will be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in wooden and stone containers." I think that's kind of...
Yeah, I think something just really quick with what Connor said with the scripture that he read there. It's, kind of already covered, and you can take it from what we were saying, but just building the pipeline and expanding the oil, spreading it out, moving it to more and more places, expanding his empire. It's kind of also just shows that there will be more and more blood because this industry is being introduced to more and more people, right? And every time we see them drilling or doing something work related involving the oil, somebody dies, right? And if that's going to keep happening in more and more places, more and more people are going to die. You can kind of extrapolate.
And like that Bible verse, like in context, I think relates to the story even more because like that was, I don't remember which number it was, but that was one of the first plagues that God inflicted upon Egypt to try to get Pharaoh let the Jewish slaves go. So it's kind of interesting to think about that because like that's kind of the Jews and God trying to take control of the Indians and get what they want out of it. And the seventh plague was the death of all the first. So it's kind of funny to like look at that in relation to seeing like Daniel was trying to take over control of the oil all across America, wherever he could get his hands on, and Eli was kind of trying to keep control of his small area. And little by little, Daniel ended up gaining control until the end. The end was also death. Same as the plagues. So I think that's kind of interesting to look at the comparison.
Yeah, and people talk about it in that way too, in the sense that it's considered by many to be a modern masterpiece. I talked about the relations to Kubrick and Paul Thomas Anderson, but you could even put this on the same stool as Godfather, maybe for today's age, sort of in a lot of ways. I don't know. I think I think it's really gonna. I think time will tell, obviously, but I think it's gonna age well.
Something that I wanted to discuss was I thought about the significance specifically of when the movie ended. The plot ends in the year 1927, which really the 1928 election and then afterwards is really what led to this Great Depression that occurred. So what do you? I thought it was significant the fact that the ultimate level of capitalist power, as portrayed through Daniel, was placed in the year 1927. Why do you think that they purposefully excluded times past the Great Depression? Because they are clearly referencing it by the fact that they are putting it so close.
If you like this one, if you haven't seen Uncut Gems by now, go see that. You know?
Uncut Gems, Godfather, Breaking Bad, that one episode of How I Met Your Mother, all referenced throughout today's episode. Big Show, In Time. I forgot about how could you forget In Time.
If you're hungering for more PTA, this kind of style, watch The Master, starring Joaquin Phoenix. It's pretty. I won't get into it, but it can be divisive, and watch that. And yeah, it's on Netflix, maybe. Gangs of New York. Well, I was thinking, I wanted to run it by you guys, but I was thinking next week we could do just a freestyle. There are a few people I want to get on the podcast who I just want to hear some thoughts. We've done a few specific episodes so far, so I figure 1 week might take a break, just talk about anything and everything again. Those are always fun.
Possibly switching up the style of movie with some lighter comedies.
Yeah, Django and Chains on Netflix. Could do that.
Some lighter comedies, Django Unchained.
Oh, did someone say lighter comedy? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I said that.
Yes, light comedies. I think the N was used like over 130 times in that movie. Light comedy. Specific people being,
No, don't cancel me. Don't cancel me.
For saying N-word is used in Django Unchained?
Dude, they're already going to cancel me for talking about Cade Nelson.
Okay.
Over. Yeah, Connor, what'd you say your dad did to the Dolphins?
My dad builds dolphins,
Christ.
as well as everyday people who need.
We get it on YouTube, Nabil.
If any viewers can send in a picture of an original iPod Shuffle with no screen playing this podcast, they will get a shout out.
Oh, I hit mute. Okay, that's weird.
They will get a shout out by me on the next podcast. Send that directly to me. My Instagram is ConnorPark__.
Yeah. So...
iPod Shuffle.
just keep it muted.
Oh God, I hate. Okay.
Please stop muting.
Okay, this has been Nabil Sharif. You've been listening to Ben Casey, Darian Nigro, Jeff Wiliams, and Manny Ray talk about There Will Be Blood. Oh, and I guess this guy too.
Thank you for unmuting me.
You're welcome. See you guys on Crunker. Peace.